One
What a
day.
day. What a day. But I took my cold medicine, and
Good.
hopefully that will open things up and I don't sound the way I sound right now.
That's all right. It's the time of year for us to all have
The
something wrong with us.
things, all the things. Yeah. Yeah.
I am looking at my pothos because I don't like sit down and stare for a long period of time at the window of plants. And I'm looking at
Yeah.
this pothos and how much help it needs. And I need
Oh
to
no.
replant it.
He's just saying,
No, it's
Mama,
just,
help me.
it's too big for the pot now and it's scraggly and it needs to be like divided or put in a much bigger pot. It needs to be
Yeah.
hung somewhere so it can,
Live his best life.
yeah.
I really need to work on my Monstera seriously, but I just haven't. That's going to be a spring thing. Spring, I'm going to really get my plants together. Any plant mamas and daddies out there, let us know, how many
Yeah,
plants
because
do you have? What are some of your favorite plants? Does anyone have any tips on managing a Monstera and how to make it less spidery? And what do you use to like pull it up so that they're just not flaying everywhere? Let us know, plant mamas and plant daddies. Let us know.
my Monstera, my friend came over and fixed my Monstera like a year or two ago, and it's
I
been much
remember
happier
that.
since. And then I need help with my fiddle leaf fig. It's growing happily. I moved it out of the window here in front of me to like the kitchen, so it has more all around light, hoping that will make it grow more robust. Like it's pretty spindly. It's happy and leafy, but it's like starting to lean and it looks a little spindly. I just would like it to be
Mm-hmm. Yep.
more voluptuous. I want
Yeah. I know
bigger
what you
leaves
mean.
and more
Yeah.
secure, like more shape to it. It's not just being a spindly thing. So I don't know if
Right.
I have to notch it or like, I don't know what. I'm scared to do anything to it because it is happy, but I think I can propagate it and notch it and make it branch, but I don't know. I'm scared.
Now that one needs a good amount of light, yes or no?
I believe so. I don't
Yeah,
know. I
that's why
just
I don't.
plopped it down in a window and it was happy and they're temperamental. And so I was just happy it was happy.
Yeah, that's why I don't have one. I really love that plant, but it's too dark in this house, and even at the windows, it's just not enough light coming in, and I just knew that plant would not survive in here. I just knew it, so I
Yeah.
didn't even attempt it. But I do love that plant. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm shocked that it's happy, but it is. And all my aloe plants are really happy too. I actually think I have to, I'm looking at both of the ones that I have. I have one here in the kitchen and one here and one here and one in the kitchen.
Yeah,
And they need to be replanted into bigger pots again. Like they're growing like crazy.
yeah, yeah,
I also should cut some leaves off and like use them for things, but
yeah. I think spring is gonna be like serious plant care.
lots of
Anyway,
work to do.
what are
Anyway,
you reading, or what have you just finished?
well, I recently finished. Sorry, I seem to have gotten something on the cover. Babel, and I don't think we talked about it here yet. So let's
We
talk
have
about Babel.
not. I'm ready for this.
So I not a 5 star. It was like 4.5, but only because like for the first 60% of the story, I wasn't engaging with the characters or the plot all that much. I was just really liking the writing and the messaging. And then something happens like around the 50-60% mark. And I started to actually care about the plot and the characters as well. So that's kind of why I took a little bit off because I just feel like for the first 60%, I felt like this could have easily have just been a narrative nonfiction and I would
Oh,
have loved it. And then when I got past that 50-60% mark, I was like, yep, I'm here for like the fantasy fiction elements of it too.
okay.
The messaging in here about colonialism and the use of language and the like co-opting of cultures and the racism built into systems and stuff like that was phenomenal. The writing, phenomenal. I'm so curious to see what else she comes out with because I feel like this is so different than the Poppy War
Yeah.
and so much better. than the Poppy War. And so what is she going to do next? You know?
Yeah. She has
So
something coming out over the summer.
what?
This coming summer.
I have to look.
Yeah.
I'll
Um
pre-order it because like I think this is like an instant. This is going to be like a auto buy for me because I'm just so curious about everything that she creates because it's so
yes.
good. But I just wish that the plot and the characters, for me, in my humble opinion, had been more engaging and some more focus had been also put on them in the beginning because there's 4 students that are
Yeah.
in this school, this Babel school that um, they are, learning about translation and language, and you're seeing sort of the history of specifically like the UK, but global politics
Mhm.
in like the 1800s and everything. There's a lot of focus on China because our main character is from China. So you
Yes.
have a lot of like the Opium Wars and all of that. And all of that is fascinating, but like I just never connected with those 4 characters in the
It's
beginning
interesting.
half of the book. So some of the things that even when I was invested in the end didn't have as much of an impact on me because I didn't have as much time to grow to care about them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
In
does.
any way? I know other people probably feel differently, but for me, I was so my focus was so much more on the messaging that she was trying to give and the history pieces and the playing of language and the history of language and all of that I just the characters and all that plot stuff was kind of irrelevant. So like I said,
Yeah.
I think my problem was my because in the beginning I couldn't figure out what it was that was just a little off and I finally hit me one day when I was driving. I was like, I think it's that this could have been a narrative nonfiction, and I easily would have been just
Yeah.
super
Just
happy
as
with it.
enthralled. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but I know, but it's
Wow.
it's totally amazing and wonderful, and like it feels wrong to say anything bad about it because it is so good. But
Yeah, yeah.
for personal perspective, there was just like a little something off. So I like, yeah. But I'm glad because
So,
I was so scared that I was going to hate this because it's so hyped.
yeah, I mean,
I was so scared.
you were worried a little bit, and I completely understand it. I may try to read it in December or January. So, two things I think you'd be interested in. I listened to a podcast episode of my new favorite podcast is Pour It Over, and they were
Yeah,
interviewing her, and she talked a lot about the amount of research that she did that went into writing that book. I think you would really enjoy that interview.
yeah, and it's
And
clear that she
oh
spent
yes, oh yes.
hours upon hours researching.
And then her book that comes out in May of 2023 is called Yellow Face.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. So oh, this is exciting. Okay, well you've
Yeah,
just made me a little
and
bit
I
more
think
interested to read. What do you say, Babel? Right?
Babel,
Babel?
it's Babel.
Mhm.
It's not Babel. But I think that you would really like it in general, but I think you'd really enjoy the discussions on translation itself because you and I
Mhm.
talk about that a lot. The
Yes.
like the art of translation, how much of the author and the translator, how much they blend
Yes.
together and all that. And there's a lot of discussion about that and like wordplay and all of that. So there's a
She's
lot in
a
this book, and I need to reread it. So maybe if you read it again, I'll
mm,
reread it and
okay.
annotate it. But I kind of want to get another copy to annotate because I want to
Yeah.
have like a nice copy. I kind of regret not buying any special editions, but my bank account is
Well,
probably happy I didn't.
and they're probably still available, right? Some of those special editions, there's quite a few, right?
I'll have to do a little bit more digging. I was looking for, I think, didn't like Blackwell's and Goldsboro and somebody do like stuff, and I didn't see any over there, but I'll have to take a look around.
I don't know, but I'm
Maybe
ordering
I
the
have to go
regular
over.
copy from Blackwell because I like
I
the
might do
UK
that.
version better. So I'm gonna order it from there. But okay, you've just gotten me a little bit more excited about it because I wanted to read it, but I didn't have any urgency behind wanting to read it. So now,
Yeah, I think you'll like it.
yeah.
Like a lot.
But she's very interesting though, right? As an author, she's very,
Hmm.
very interesting. I'm quite intrigued by her, and I always am so fascinated with the amount of time some authors put into writing, some of their books. It's just like it's really it's a lot.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
years upon years, and it's
I'm
fascinating.
I'm writing a mostly frivolous urban fantasy romance, and it's like
Hmm.
time consuming and difficult and like so much random research. Like I spent like 40 minutes yesterday trying to figure out how to describe the sound of a violin. And like and
Right.
like and that's like not even that big of a deal, but then you think of something like this and you're like, holy shit.
For sure.
Like the artistry, the skill, the time, the it's awe inspiring in many ways. So
And she's so young.
uh-huh.
She's so young. And it just makes you a little excited because it's like
There's gonna be so much that can
we
come from her. Like we're gonna
so
get
much.
so
We have
much.
so
Yeah.
much to look forward to that's gonna come
Hmm.
out of her big old brain. So that's exciting.
Hmm. Yeah, so
Okay.
definitely read it, Naomi.
All right. Um, I am currently reading Fleischman is
75
in
books.
Trouble. Fleischman is in Trouble by Taffy Brodesser Ackner. And this came out back in 2019. I remember because I had really just got into Bookstagram and everyone was talking about this book. And I just recently found this book either earlier this year or the end of last year. And I'm picking it up now because I saw a trailer for an adaptation of this book that's going to be premiering on FX on November 17th. So I said, okay, well, now's the time to break this out and start reading it. And I got to tell you, I'm really into it. I'm really into it. You've got this man who is freshly separated from his wife. They have two children together. And in the middle of the night while he was sleeping, his wife comes to his house to drop off his two children. And then she texts him to say, basically, I'm going away, going somewhere, whatever, and the kids are with you. I dropped them off with you or whatever. And he's pissed. He's like, he's a doctor. He's like, what if I would have had to leave? Or what if the house would have caught on fire? Just all the what ifs of like anything could have
Hmm.
happened. And because I didn't know they were there, like this could have ended so badly. She said, well, that's why I texted you. So we already see right there, like they're in a weird place. And let me tell you what's really getting me with this book that I'm finding so enjoyable. Oftentimes, when we read a book about a married couple separating, it is mainly the husband who has all the control. He controls the
Hmm.
finances. He controls basically, how and when they're actually going to go from separation to divorce. He has all the friends. He has all the this. He has all the that, and she is left with the burden of the children. But oh no, this book flips it on its head because in actuality, in this book, the husband is the quote unquote wife. His wife is the one who's taken all the liberties, not just during the separation, but during their marriage. She's kind of like, she's not your atypical what you read in books or what you see on the screen mommy. She's very much wants to do her own thing, have a lot of playtime. And in this separation, she is the one that's really financing the kids. She's paying for their very expensive private school. She's giving him a large amount of child support every month. So she's really the one controlling all the strings versus him. And so there's an incident where he's looking for her, he can't find her. He's called to this yoga retreat where she's supposed to be, and he's really pissed. And he's like, I'm just going to take her for custody. He goes to see this lawyer, and she basically tells him, but honey, you're the wife. Like you're the wife. Are you? Do you not see it? So I like how it's flipping these, normal stories that we usually hear of the woman not having control, whereas this woman has all the control, and this husband just has to like figure it out. I'm enjoying this a great deal, loving it. I cannot wait to see how they do the adaptation. Fleischman is in Trouble by Taffy Brodesser Ackner.
Is it written by a man or a woman? Because I don't know what name Taffy is. I can't
Taffy
assign
is a
that to.
woman.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I don't know how I feel about that book. um, like part of me is like, yeah, like go her. Like like, but I feel like I'm supposed to empathize with the husband. But I don't know how I feel about this book.
This book puts you in like a weird position where you're not really sure who to root for exactly, because on the face of what's going on, you would think you want to root for the husband, but then you realize certain things about him and how he relates to some of his friends, and you start to
Yeah.
question like who he is as a person. And then at the same time, we're looking at the wife, and you're like, you're just off on this, retreat or whatever. You're not responding to your husband's, phone calls or text messages. But then you find out later on that something very traumatic happened to her that really could be still affecting how she relates to her marriage or her children right now. So there's a
I
lot of
guess.
things that are unresolved that we're still trying to like figure out and piece together. It's very
Mhm.
interesting.
I guess the point is one of the points will probably be that like in a relationship and in a breakup and in a divorce, like blame and fault are hard to
Oh
are
yes.
fluid. Are they're very fluid.
Yeah.
And um yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Somebody always has to be the villain and you have two different perspectives. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I could read that. I think that would give me weird feelings.
I think
It's
you would
weird because like
enjoy it, how
Days
things
of
are just kind of flipped
Abandonment,
on the head.
because Days of Abandonment was like nearly triggering, but I was like, okay,
Right.
because it was just ridiculous enough that it didn't hit too close to home. And I don't know. I don't know if I could be. I feel like I would self-insert and feel terrible. Oh no, sickness, the sicky. Yeah, we have a really uncanny knack to only record when we feel like shit.
I know, right? Like, I'm working at my desk yesterday and I paused for a moment and I'm like, I'm getting sick. Like at this verb, I feel it. I'm getting sick. And like
Hmm.
hour by hour, like I'm feeling worse and worse. I'm like, great, and we're recording tomorrow. Like, what is this? Is
It's
this some kind of magic trick you and I have going on?
yeah.
Where we set to record, and then all of a sudden our bodies are like, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna get a cold, you're gonna get a sinus infection, you're gonna get a flu shot and feel like crap.
Yeah, I just have a flu shot and really bad allergies, so like my asthma's through the roof because it keeps getting warm and everything like is like pollen, and so like I
Exactly.
can't breathe. But I'm fine. I just can't. I'm just phlegmy. Like I'll be
Right.
fine.
Right. Well, I think that I'm gonna have two possibly triggering books for you today. When we get to the end where we're
Oh,
doing our
I'm
book
so
recommendations,
glad that you're going to trigger me today.
but I just want to tell you right now, the book that I'm going to talk about at the end of the show, like I want you to read this so badly because I want us to talk about it because it is just, it was actually very triggering for me.
All right. Well, we'll get there at the end. What
Yeah,
are we talking about today, Miss Thing?
Motherthing, Motherthing by Ainsley
Oh,
Hogarth. Y'all, you all that are watching the video, get a load of this cover. This is one of my favorite covers that has been released this year. It
can
is
I
just, it's everything.
can I just say one of like the reason that I requested this arc was because of the cover, but specifically the like old Betty Crocker like something
Yes.
in aspic
Yes.
little dish on it,
Mhm.
because I remember flipping through all of my mom's cookbooks and
Yeah.
everything looks like this. Why is
Everything's
everything in
jelly. Everything's
aspic?
jelly.
Why
Yeah.
is everything in jelly? And like she puts shit in jelly in this
Yeah.
book, and I was like, thank you. When she did that later in the book, I was like, this makes me feel complete somehow. Like the fact that
Exactly.
she makes it and people eat it. Because if you gave me jellied meat, I would throw it in your face.
It's like, how dare you? Can we just give a shout out to Nicholas Alguire,
Is that the
Algier? That
is
is
that
the
the
book.
cover?
He did the book design.
Love it.
Like, bang up job, Nicholas. Seriously, this bang up job.
We love it.
Kudos. This cover is really fascinating.
Also, can I just
Beautiful.
say, I know you have a finished copy, but I think sometimes these publishers actually make really nicely bound paperbacks of their arcs. I really like Vintage's paperbacks. Like they feel nice in my
Vintage
hand.
has great paperbacks. Oh my goodness,
Some
yes.
sometimes their arcs are like sometimes you get an arc and it's like really flimsy, and I get it. Like they're not trying to put a lot of money into them.
Yeah.
But, like some of them are really great. Like, and
But
I have
these
a
are
few.
finished copies though.
This isn't a finished copy. This is an arc.
Oh, I have a finished copy.
I don't have an arc.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always send me finished copies most of the time.
No, they don't.
No?
No.
Oh.
Naomi, I don't think you realize it, but you're actually like a much more you have a lot more creator clout than I do.
What?
I don't think you realize that. You have like so many more followers than I do, and you have so much more influence than I do. I don't think you realize how tiny I am in comparison to you.
She's talking nonsense.
I know it
Anyway,
doesn't feel like that because you and I always talk to each other and like we're always together, and we probably feel like, we do the same things, but like, no, you actually have a ton of clout.
I don't know about that, but thank you,
I think you
Vintage.
have like twice as many people that follow you than I
I
do.
don't
I don't
know
know. I
because
don't really look at it.
I don't check my followers. I
But like
don't.
a
I
while
just.
ago, I looked and I think you were like somewhere like more than me. And I'm sure that like we were like double me like a while ago. So I'm sure you're more than that. Because I just
Oh,
happened to
I don't
notice it
know.
like months ago.
Oh, I don't check. I don't check any of
And
the things. I don't check my followers. I don't check. I don't check when to post. I don't check a lot of. I just don't check a lot of things.
I
I
haven't
just.
posted on Instagram in so long. I feel like I just haven't. I've been
What are you
so
talking about? You post all the time.
Do I? It doesn't feel like I'm posting. I used to post so
Yes.
much more. I post stories a lot and like
You post stories now, but you do post in your feed.
I do, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I haven't done it
Yeah.
in a long time. I've been really focused on YouTube lately.
Yeah.
It goes in waves, back and forth. Anyway, Motherthing.
Yes. Thank you, Vintage, for gifting us
So,
these copies. Thank you so much.
okay. So you want to give a little summary of what this
Yes.
is?
So Ralph and Abby, a married couple, they are living with Ralph's mother, who suffers from mental illness, and they have come to live with her to kind of help her out and to get her back on track. And she commits suicide in the basement of their home, and this sets off
And that's how the book
quite the
like opens. It
yeah. That's
opens
how
with
that yeah. Yeah, that's how it opens. And this sets off quite the dark comedic ghost story that I was not expecting,
and mental health crisis.
and mental health crisis on everyone's part.
Everybody in
And
this
we go
book
on a
needs a
heck of a ride.
therapist.
Everybody, and dare I say, medication.
Oh yes, lots of medication. Everybody needs it.
Lots of medication. But this book is quite funny. I mean, I even found like there's a funny line right on page one. They're in the ICU in the waiting room, and this woman comes in and she gives Ralph this card, and and Abby says, um, well, she says, when I got back to the ICU waiting room with our sodas, I said, "What do you mean, woman in a red dress? A Jessica Rabbit type came va booming down the hall, pendulum hips pounding sound waves into the soles of dicks." I mean, this is the kind of humor that we're in for all the way throughout the book. It was hilarious, but I was like, okay, Ainsley, you have me laughing on page one
The
in
writing
a
is
very serious situation.
Oh yeah, the writing is very artfully unhinged. I think is the best
Mm,
way to describe this.
I love that.
Because he's like Abby is just such an unreliable narrator
Oh
and she's
my
absolutely batshit crazy. And you're in her head. Like she has
yeah.
those moments where she literally makes scenes in her head and it reads the text will turn to a script. She'll be like, scene, sitting in the kitchen, and Ralph walks in and I whatever. And like it's just
Right.
it's funny and like you don't know there are moments where you're like, I don't know if she's playing out a scene in her head or did this actually happen? And like as you're reading, you're like, wait, what is reality? What isn't?
Yes.
And you kind of root for her, but you're also like, you're not a great person.
Okay. I'm not rooting for Abby. I'm terrified of Abby because she
I
is
know sometimes
so
I'm root for her.
unstable. I'm
Maybe
scared of
it's,
her.
but like I feel like I want her to be happy because I feel like she really loves Ralph in like a mostly obsessive way. But she really loves Ralph. She really wants to she wants to like break the cycle of abuse, be a good mom, have a baby and have this like beautiful relationships in her head and like she's absolutely unhinged and she's crazy but like I kind of want her to be happy.
I kind of don't want her to murder everybody. I just kind of don't want her to murder everybody. She's so unstable. She makes
Doesn't
me so
murder
uncomfortable.
she doesn't murder everybody. Okay, are we doing spoilers in this book?
We're talking about this book.
All right. So
we're talking about it. So if you have
all
not
right, if
read
you haven't read
Motherthing,
this, turn it off now. Come back to it after you've
it's a
read
quick
it.
read, folks. It's really a quick read. It's
She's
only
read it twice in the
I read it
last
twice.
4 weeks. So just this is your time. So get off,
Yeah,
and then
and then come back because we're
when
going
you're
to talk
done
about
reading.
it. We're going to talk
For
about
everybody else who either doesn't care to be spoiled or has already read this. She only kills one person, okay?
I mean, now,
But I think the problem isn't that she killed somebody. I think the problem is that she fed that somebody to her husband.
Could you believe that? Okay, we have jumped way ahead, but I mean,
I'm
Alyssa,
sorry. Naomi, we are getting to that early because
I had to read it like 3 times. I was like, wait, am I just tired right now, or am I reading what did she? Okay, all right,
like,
she
what
cooked
is
it up. Chicken
my
a la
favorite
king.
quote, and you probably have it highlighted, and I think it happens before she eats people. So is when she says, "Adults like to show they like each other by putting each other in their mouths or something like that."
Yeah.
And like, yeah, they do. Yeah. Apparently, you also mean to eat each other.
Exactly. It's just, and also
it's delightfully unhinged.
It was so unhinged. When she got to the woman's house, I had a suspicion that okay, we're jumping too far ahead because they don't know who the woman is. All right, so
wait, so let's back up, but just know that there is forced cannibalism.
Yes.
So I guess triggers.
I don't even. This whole book is a trigger, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what your triggers are. I'm not good at giving trigger warnings. I'm going to leave that to the authors and the publishers to tell you.
I looked over my shoulder and Mercy's just peacefully sleeping in the corner while we're discussing cannibalism.
Well, it is a Tuesday.
Cannibalism Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday. But we kind of get to know right away that Ralph and his mother have a very
codependent
relationship, and that he is probably somewhat of a mama's boy, and that his mother is extremely manipulative, extremely controlling, and that she and Abby also do not get along. And it's safe to say that Laura, that's Ralph's mother, does not approve of Abby, as we learned about the ring situation.
Yeah, so the mom has this like opal ring that Abby really covets, and so when the mom dies, she finally dies in the ICU, and she takes the ring. Mm-hmm. And later, when they're getting the body ready for everything, for burial and everything, Ralph's like, "Where's the ring?" And like everybody at the funeral home's like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about."
Right, there's no ring.
There's never a ring. And so now this ring is like this haunted item, like just following Abby around because she can't admit that she took the ring because she never wants to upset Ralph. Everything is about like she never wants to upset Ralph.
Exactly. Everything's all about Ralph.
Like she is just as codependent on Ralph as Ralph was to his mother. And she like the amount of jealousy between mother-in-law and daughter was insane.
Oh, crazy.
And then slowly you get on top of that all of the backstory of poor Abby and her terrible mother and the string of terrible men that she dated. So poor Abby was mentally screwed from the beginning.
Exactly. Which really, you can see why she's so clingy and so codependent on Ralph. It's basically Ralph is almost like a mother that she never had in a lot of ways.
Ralph was somebody who was good to her, but she also like when you also get flashbacks to her and Ralph meeting, and you could see that like she really like narrated a lot of that relationship in her head, if that makes any sense. Like I don't know what was real and what was like her romanticizing Ralph and connecting with him. Everybody has mental illness. Have we said that enough? Everybody has like strong mental illness here. Like I'm fairly certain the mother was bipolar. Ralph, I think, is also bipolar to some extent.
Oh, what did she have? She had borderline personality.
That's right, and that's what it was. Never
Mm-hmm.
mind, it wasn't bipolar. And personality, I think everybody in this book has a personality disorder, and personality disorders are wickedly hard to manage.
Yeah.
Because the way to manage your mental health is to be able to have perspective and like reflection on yourself. And most people with personality disorders, that is something that's difficult to do. So
Right.
it's not impossible, but man,
But
is it
very, very
hard.
hard. Yes.
It's
Yes.
hard. It can take a long time to get diagnosed. It takes a long time to get like
Get it under control.
effective
Yeah.
treatment. It's a tricky one.
Yeah. And Laura was a tricky one.
Uh-huh.
She's really
Mm-hmm.
awful. And so, in
She
regards to
was.
this
They
ring,
were
it was
both
Ralph's
really terrible
mother's
mothers.
engagement ring. And Abby says she promised to give it to Ralph one day when he was ready to propose to someone. But when I came along and he was ready to propose, she didn't want any. She didn't want to anymore. Didn't think it suited me, and maybe Ralph should check out K Jewelers in the mall because Irene had told her they were having a pretty significant sale. So we
She's
already
K
see.
Jewelers material.
Right. We already see Laura does not approve of Abby. And of course not. You know, mothers and sons, that's a tricky relationship, right? Especially, and I'm talking from personal experience, especially
Oop.
when the son's mother is either divorced, widowed, or single, because they have
Mm-hmm.
replaced the man of their life with their son. And
Yep.
so when another woman comes along, that mother feels very threatened that she's going to take
Mm-hmm.
her son slash boyfriend away. And that's exactly what's going on with
Mm-hmm.
Ralph, Abby, and Laura. It is just
Mm-hmm.
like, it is a hot mess.
But I also think there's a piece of this where because Laura is also unhinged, I
Hmm.
have this sense that she can almost like sniff it on Abby,
On
and she's
Abby,
like,
yes!
he doesn't need another unhinged woman. I am the unhinged woman. No other unhinged woman needs to be here.
Right?
Like
But she
there
can't
can
say
only
that.
be one. She can't say that
Exactly.
because
But you can't
plus
say
she'd also
that.
have to admit that she's totally unhinged, which I don't think she would ever
Exactly.
admit. But this ring is just kind of like this ghost throughout the entire story, along with the actual ghost of Laura that comes
Right.
back at some point, where like she's constantly like Abby's constantly stressing about this ring and like
Yeah.
what can she do with the ring and like how can she get the ring back and like is there any way because like if Ralph finds out Ralph's gonna leave me kind of thing. Like Ralph will never forgive me.
Exactly.
And like what about the baby? The baby that doesn't fucking exist.
Oh, okay, y'all. This was so effing weird to me. She fixates on. She's already named this child number one. That she's named this baby Cal, Cal, and throughout the book, she's just fixated on this baby that does not exist yet, and it is one of the creepiest things that I've read in a long time. It really, truly creeped me out. She goes so far as to lie to Ralph and tell him that she's already pregnant, and she rationalizes this by saying, well, I'm basically going to be pregnant, soon anyway.
Anyway,
So let's just go ahead and tell him I'm pregnant now because, it'll lift his spirits and he won't think about his mother anymore. And, I can make him happy. And, Cal's going to come. And it is just so freaking creepy.
but
It
what
is
she doesn't
weird.
count on is that Ralph is in like a major depressive moment and Ralph is like can't even get out of sweatpants and like is
Right.
downstairs in the basement talking to his dead mother. Ralph is not having sex with her.
Exactly. And she is very upset about that because he just has no desire. And she finds out later, too, that he actually also has a history of depression and that he has
Mm-hmm.
also tried to harm himself before. So
Mm-hmm.
lots of things unravel throughout the story.
This book is so messy in the
It
most
is. Oh, my
wonderful
goodness.
way.
This book is delicious.
It's
It
so
is a
good.
delicious book.
It's so good. But she also works at this nursing home. So
Yeah.
Abby works at this nursing home and she's taking care of this old woman who has like really bad dementia and she's
Mm-hmm.
like Abby's constantly finding like substitutes for all the terrible people in her life. So like this
Yeah.
old woman becomes like this narrative substitute for her terrible mom, right? So
Yep.
she's doting on her, she's taking care of her. She has this terrible relationship with the actual woman's daughter.
Yep.
They're always butting heads. They're always mad at each other. And like one day she finds out that like the reason why the daughter is removing this woman from the care home and is always so angry is because she doesn't like her mother because her mother was a raging bitch. And she finally has the
Exactly.
freedom and the ability to say, bye mom, screw you, go die
Exactly.
somewhere else. And like Abby just can't process this. Abby is
She
so
can't.
obsessed with this old lady. She's like,
Yeah, what's her
no.
name? Mrs. Brody. She loves Mrs.
Bondi.
Brody. Bondi, Mrs. Bondi. She calls her her little baby, which is she said, she's my baby. She's my baby. It's so weird. She really has clung to this woman, and this woman has, you know, going through dementia. You're going through all the people that you used to be throughout your life, right? Just
Mhm.
going backwards. And so this woman, you know, gives her hugs and talks to her about everything and listens to her and, you know, sympathizes with her and her situation and just gives her all the love and affection that she has always desired since she was a child. And she cannot wrap her head around the fact that this woman was ever terrible to anyone, especially her daughter. She looks at this woman like, oh, this is what a good mother is. This is what a good mother looks like, feels like, talks like, acts like. And so Janet, the daughter of Mrs. Bondi, is like, you don't know what you're talking about.
This
And then
woman's a bitch.
she's like, what did Janet says, what did she do to you? And Abby's like, basically like, Mrs. Your mother didn't do anything to me. She's like, no, it's not your mother. What did your mother do to you? And if
Quite a
you had
lot.
a chance to get even or deal with your hurt from your mother in your own way, like, would you want someone to stop you from doing that? I was like,
I mean,
valid.
she is doing it. She is doing it. The amount of ways that Ainsley is looking at mothering is so interesting. So this isn't
Yeah.
just like unhinged women. There's like a lot of discussion on like I love a good story about actually terrible relationships with your mother because
Yes.
that happens to a
Oh,
lot of us. We are all not you, Naomi, okay?
I know.
You're
I
a
know. Yeah.
lucky lady.
I know it.
But
I know
there's
it.
so many ways that your mother fucks you up. Like,
Yeah.
clearly, this is going to be an expletive filled video since we
Yeah.
started with an. Yeah. But there's so many ways that your mother can screw you up. So this is the relationship. This is your first bonding relationship, right? So like, this
Yes.
is your primary way of figuring out self like security, your
Yes.
world, who you can trust, et
It's
cetera, et
how you
cetera, et
get your
cetera.
footing. It's how you get your footing as a person.
And if that relationship is off, oh, it's going to be like it's just such an interesting look because you have Mrs. Bondi and her daughter, but you also have um, I wanted to call her Ainsley. That's not right. Abby and Mrs. Bondi. You have Ralph and his mom, but you also have Abby and her mom. Then you get all the backstory about Abby and her actual mom, and
Uh
like,
huh.
oh, it's so bad. It's so so bad. And then you watch this unhinged woman name an unconceived child
Mm hmm. Yes.
and start to like narrate that child's life. She's like, she's already constructing a story.
Yes.
She's constantly constructing stories. And like that's how she copes with her world. Like this woman has a lot of unresolved trauma
So
that
much.
she self is like soothing or whatever with all these random stories where she romanticizes aspects of her life, like she does with Mrs. Bondi,
Exactly.
she does with Ralph.
Exactly. Yep. And let's talk about couchy mother thing. Because that's
Couchy
just
mother.
sad. That's
And
just sad. Like her mother
that was such
was
a
just,
wonderful narrate. Like I really liked that whole device in the story though.
yeah, but it was so heartbreaking though. Like
It's
her
really
mother
sad.
had
It's really
so
sad.
many boyfriends, and you know, her mother seemed to be the type of woman where she was only thriving as a person and a mother if she was in a good relationship. And if at
Yeah.
any point she was in a bad relationship, like basically, you know, the world and her and Abby were just gonna have to pay for all that pain that her mother was experiencing. And she mentions in the book, she says like the only thing that was important to her mother was really like her pain or her trauma. And so her mom was
Mhm.
always gone and doing her own thing, and Abby just clings to the couch. And you
Yeah.
know, she's you soothing herself on the couch and really like locking herself onto the couch because it's like a source of comfort that she wasn't getting from her
Yeah.
own mother. And she calls it couchy mother thing. And I'm like, that's just, first of all, it's
Isn't
funny, but
sad?
also
But
it's
it's so
sad.
sad. It's
It's
the
sad.
saddest thing. There's a lot of humor in this book. A lot of the way, like Abby talks in kind of a ridiculous and laughable way.
She
A lot of
does.
the conversations she has with other people are kind of funny and laughable. The way she portrays like that one coworker that actually is pregnant.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and I will say that those scenes I found reasonably relatable, given like my own things with trying to conceive and stuff, and how
Mhm.
just demoralizing it is when you're trying to conceive and everybody else around you
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
breathes and gets pregnant and you're like
Right.
suddenly like you're like what the fuck is wrong with me? Like I like
Absolutely.
biologically I have basically one fucking purpose and I can't do it. And like
Right. Right.
and you start to feel like a very broken person. So like I found that really relatable. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's lots of little moments in this book that, despite the ridiculousness, and when you pulled that all back, there's really relatable moments where you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, like I am really hurt by this person I was supposed to trust. And like there is a lot of trauma involved in here. And like, yeah, maybe I have romanticized a relationship that was not really what it was so that I felt safe in that
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And so like I just think that she did a really clever job and wonderful job of hitting on some really dark and sad things in a light and ridiculous and unhinged
Yeah.
way.
I actually think the majority of this book is very relatable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of married women out here that just cannot compete with their mother-in-laws. They are hated by their mother-in-laws. You know what I mean? They can't get to the spot of being the number one woman in their husband's lives because that mother-in-law will always be in that position. You know,
Mhm.
and there's also a lot of women out here that didn't have a great mom, and so
Mhm.
one of the things about being married that's so joyful is knowing that now you're going to have a chance to have a relationship with a mother figure and have a special bond with that woman. And when that doesn't happen, it's almost like devastating. It's like you've been abandoned all over again. When you thought you were going to have this wonderful
Mhm.
relationship, with a mother figure, and finally have, those wonderful mother-daughter moments, and it just doesn't happen at all.
Yeah.
I've known women in those kind of positions. So there's a lot in this book that's relatable. Like, she really
Yeah.
nailed it on a lot of various issues.
I also just think women have really complex relationships with each other, especially women
Mm-hmm.
that are that close when you're talking about like mother-in-law, sister,
Yeah.
brother. Like when you have all those really close female relationships in your life, they get really tricky because I feel like we like to read and write these like romance stories where the men are super territorial and like protective.
Right.
Women are the really territorial people. I find so much more than men. Like we don't like anybody like pushing into the world that we've built, whatever
Yeah.
that world is. We get really protected. Like the mama bear instinct is strong, whether
Oh,
it's
yeah.
well placed or misplaced. It is a strong thing that I think is innate in a lot of us. It's just like I'm going to protect the unit I've built. It's my job. Um, and I think men do it too, but I really think that we are
They do
worse
it
at
in a
that
very different
differently.
way. A very
We,
different way.
we will like fixate and scheme, and like it's much more psychological and
Well, we're
can be
better at
very
scheming.
nasty. We're better at being nasty.
Well, we're just better at scheming, period. I think because we have most of us have more control over what we decide to show another person.
Hmm.
We're very good
There's a
at
lot of
masking.
I think there's a lot of internal life in women, and I
Oh,
think that gets
yes,
explored a lot in this.
absolutely.
Men can be very external, and we're talking very like very
Very general.
generic
Yeah.
gender roles, like whatever. Everybody's there's a spectrum, but in general, like the extremes of our gender roles, like men can just be very like explosive and external, and like
Mhm.
things go out and then they're over, and like everything is so internal in like a
Yes.
woman's world. And I mean, I
Yes.
guess it makes sense. I mean, I'm thinking back to reading a Room of One's Own recently, and like the idea that we were kind of always, you don't get the chance to explore and have that freedom of expression. Like you're so confined in your role as a woman for centuries, and the
Mhm.
things that you were allowed to do, and the places you were allowed to be, and the things that
Yes.
you were allowed to like actually express. Um, yeah, that makes you become a very internal creature, right?
You're absolutely right. It
And we
hasn't
can't.
it hasn't been welcomed for you to really
Mhm.
just be who you are, which involves what? Acting how you want to act, saying what you want to say. People have constructed a very specific view of what a good wife, a woman, a good mother looks like, and you have to
Mhm.
subscribe to all those things. And the moment you decide to go out of those boxes, you are looked upon as a horrible person. and
There's a lot
everyone
of
turns on
consequences.
you. So you have to stay inside, number one, so that, you don't embarrass or humiliate yourself and your family, right? And
Hmm.
so that you aren't now the enemy of all the people because you decided
So
to jump out the box.
yeah, so we become these very internal creatures that can,
Yeah.
like, if you add a layer of mental illness on top of that, suddenly
Woo!
it
Watch
gets
out.
real. It gets real
Oh,
spicy, real fast.
Alyssa, don't threaten me with a good time.
So, do we want to talk about why she feeds this woman to her?
Yes. Yes. So let's tell them what happened, right? So when Abby finds out that Janet has decided to move her mother, Mrs. Bodie,
Bondi.
From that nursing home to the one that's really, really bad, Abby just loses it. She goes to this woman's house. She's completely unstable. She's unhinged at this point. She is
Hmm.
basically
She's been
begging.
unhinged for the whole
Well,
book,
that's
Naomi.
true. That's true. But like she's
She's
like
just
in
like at next level.
high mode now. She is
What's
begging this
above
woman.
unhinged?
I don't know. Yeah, what is
Psychotic?
it?
I don't
Like
know.
it's something, but whatever it is, that's where she is. She is begging this woman to please just like keep her with us. Like it is our job to, provide her comfort, to do this, to do that. And like she's like, I know she didn't get it right with you, but she's getting it right with me. I mean, she is losing it.
She loses her fucking
Begging,
mind.
pleading, and all of a sudden, knife goes into Janet's neck.
Sometimes you stab a bitch. I mean,
You know
I mean, sometimes you just gotta. I don't know.
that. I mean, everything, and it was like three, maybe it was like 6 pages of like all this, talk between she and Janet, and all of this flipping out, and then like, and it's moving really fast, right? And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, like boom, she stabs her, and it was like, what?
Yeah, hold on.
Like wait, like I wasn't. I should have been ready, but I wasn't ready. I, I was just like stunned for a minute. Like, when
Yeah,
you're reading the book and you just kind of like put the book down and you just
you're
stare
like,
into space, like, wait a
you're like,
minute.
bitch, she didn't.
Like,
Oh, she
wait
did.
a minute. And I was like, okay. And then you have to like get yourself together, right? Because it's like, okay, so this is where we are now. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's find out what happens next. So, yeah, so that happened. Do you want to talk about the cleanup of said incident?
Oh no, you talk about that. Do you have that flagged? Because I need to find that.
So
Remember, I was on a train when I was reading this.
this is page okay, 248, 249. Okay, 251, when she starts to clean up all of the stuff. And like
There we go.
she's
Yeah.
got all these cleaning supplies. She is ready. This part was
Oh yeah,
so
and she's talking about
disturbing.
how much she like wanted to clean up. Like it couldn't be like the way that her mother-in-law left it for them, like
Right.
because that she was so inconsiderate to slit her wrists and bleed out on the carpet.
Right. Like how dare she?
Sorry.
It's insane. This whole book is insane.
No, she goes crazy and cleans like nobody's business. But then she realizes that she needs to make this dish for her husband.
His favorite
And like
dish.
this dish is going to be the thing that
Yep.
just fixes everything. Because if you feed the man will be fine.
Want
And
me to
so
read that
she's
line? Or do you
yes.
have it underlined?
No, you have. I don't have anything underlined because I'm bad.
She said, a good woman butchers her meat properly without cruelty. A good woman takes only what she needs for chicken a la king and nothing more. Like that is where her mind is going. This is Ralph's favorite meal, chicken a la king.
Yeah, so
And
she's
she
been.
proceeds.
So to explain the good woman thing, so she's had this cookbook she has Couchy thing as her mom, but she also has like as her, for lack of a better word, Bible, her like moral compass is this book of recipes that are compiled from like women and like their mothers or something like that. So it's this
Yeah, like all
whole
around the world.
collection of different women's like familial recipes, and she keeps going back to this like it's some sort of moral text or like compass for her, and like
Yeah.
it's her
It's her.
Bible, for
It's
lack of
her
a
good
better
going
word.
Bible. That's exactly what
Yeah.
it is. You're right.
And so then she just starts to fillet Janet so that she can make chicken on the king.
It's
But it's not
it's
just
so
chicken on the king. It's chicken on the king in jelly, isn't it?
Mhm.
Oh no, she made
No.
she made the jelly for something else.
For the
That's right. This
for
one
the
wasn't jelly.
coworkers.
This is just regular chicken on the king. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Oh my god.
But there's so much pleasing, trying to please Ralph, which really just got on my nerve. It's like, God dang it, men don't have to do anything for women that jump all these hoops to like please them, because her whole thing is all about Ralph, all about Ralph.
And Ralph's not doing anything.
He's not doing nothing.
Ralph's just sitting in his depression hole. Like,
right. He's in a stool depression, not dealing with life, and
yeah.
Abby is making herself even more crazy, trying to, make him want to have sex, trying to make him happy, lying about being pregnant, all these things, making his favorite meal, even though the meat is a person. I mean, just all of these things. And it's just like, Ralph is just sitting back, just like, I'm just not here right now. I'm just not here.
And then she gets home. Well, she leaves everything kind of as it is. She picks up all of her cleaning supplies. She packs her meat in the cooler. And she just kind of walks out
like nothing ever happened. And I love how the next chapter starts with, I rinse the meat. Because it made it so casual, right? It made it so
everything's
casual.
really casual. But like, if you are that unhinged, oh, my stomach's growling. This is the wrong time for that. I didn't have breakfast. Anyway, it's noon. But like, I like that before she leaves, she says, not a Janet anymore, but a Janet thing. Everything, like, if there's couchy thing, Janet thing, a mother thing, everything. She puts these distances between anything negative in her life.
Right.
So that she doesn't have to really, like, process it. Because why would you process the difficult thoughts when you could process the meat you just filleted off this lady's rump?
Could not believe that happened. That was something I did not anticipate, was not ready for, and that took me aback. It surely did.
I mean, she cooks this up. She feeds it to her husband. He loves it.
Yeah.
He eats it.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain he then gets very sick.
They have crazy sex after?
Yeah. I mean, everything's right with the world.
Yeah, they have crazy sex after. She sees the ghost of her mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law basically just like fades away because whatever Abby needed, whatever she needed to do to satisfy the dead mother, and knowing that you're gone, but I'm going to take care of Ralph. I will save him. He will be okay with me. Whatever that was satisfied with Laura, the dead mother, and she goes bye-bye. And it's all very strange. It's all very, very strange.
And nothing happens. I think that's the thing that's like so unsettling. Is the book, when it ends, it just ends.
Yeah. It just ends. It's a very open-ended story, because you
have no idea who finds Janet, what happens next.
Nothing
at all. And it's not like there isn't like documented history of issues between Janet and Abby.
Yeah.
You have no idea if she ends up actually getting pregnant. You have no idea like what's happening.
Exactly. We don't know what happens to that lady, Mrs. Bondi.
Yeah.
So we have all of these storylines that actually don't have a clear ending.
Yeah.
And you know me, I'm okay with that. Like some books, like this one, I'm okay with that.
I like it. I like all the questions you can have about it.
Yeah.
Because like, how do you wrap this up? You don't wrap this up nicely. Like, there's no way to wrap this up. Like,
there's no way.
Because even if like the cops came and she gets arrested, like there's still like, that's kind of a cop out, because you're gonna want to know like that. I want to know like the whole trial. I need to know more.
Exactly.
That book's going on forever. The book needs to end somewhere. Like, let's end in a puke session and the mother like disappearing out of the world. Like,
Basically. That's it.
yeah.
That's it.
And ta-da, that is Motherthing.
Anything
It's
else would have been
fantastic.
too campy. Anything else would have been too campy, too
Mhm.
predictable, too
Mhm.
tied up nicely with a bow. I think
Mhm.
that the way this book ends is kind of like how the book has been from the beginning. A little messy,
Yeah.
a little choppy, not knowing. I loved it.
I
Great
loved it so
job.
much. It was so good.
Am I to
It was-
understand that Ainslie Hogarth was a YA writer? This is her first adult novel. Did you hear that?
No, I've never heard that. I don't really pay attention to like anything about anybody.
Well, Miss Hogarth, I'm
I'm
telling
the
you,
worst.
you really did your thing on this, okay? You did your thing on Motherthing. We love it. We
Sorry,
absolutely love it.
I thought my camera was doing something funny for a second, but we're good. Whew.
So good. If you
So
have not picked up Motherthing, highly recommend it. It's a very
please,
short read, as you can see.
it's super short. It's
Super
really
short.
quickly paced, so you will go
It
through it,
is.
and it's so good. If
It's so good.
listening to us talk about this hasn't turned you off from reading it, and you haven't already read it, please read it.
Yeah.
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 All right, lady. Since we've got some hard stops today recording.
Oh,
All
book
right.
recommendation time. You
So
going?
what do you? I'll go. So I pulled out a book that just had its sequel come out this month in November. So I'm sure I've talked about this before, but we're going to talk about it again just so everybody picks up the sequel, and that's A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsk. And I
I need you to read that.
loved this queer fantasy, and this is a queer fantasy romance. It's a male romance. The sequel is a female female. It's like a sapphic on the high seas romance,
Mm-hmm.
fantasy romance, and it's one of the characters' sisters. So it's like haven't read it yet. It just arrived, and I've been wrapped up in Nano. But I think it's like I don't think you could read them separately, but it's not like they're completely tied together. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of like jumping to a new set of characters. But anyway, but look at them. This is I have.
Oh, oh, it's beautiful.
Anyway, so I'm gonna read you the little summary here. Robin Blythe has more than enough but I can't talk. Okay. Robin Blythe has more than enough bother in his life. He's struggling to be a good older brother, a responsible employer, and the harried baronet of a seat gutted by his late parents' excesses. When an administrative mistake sees him named the civil servant liaison to a hidden magical society, he discovers what's been operating beneath the unextraordinary reality he's always known. Now Robin must contend with the beauty and danger of magic, an excruciating, deadly curse, and the alarming visions of the future that come with it. Not to mention Edwin Corsi's, his cold and prickly counterpart in the magical bureaucracy, who clearly wishes Robin were anyone and anywhere else. Robin's predecessor, has disappeared, and the mystery of what happened to him reveals unsettling truths about the very oldest stories they've been told about the land they live on and what binds it. Thrown together, facing unexpected dangers, Robin and Edwin discover a plot that threatens every magician in the British Isles and a secret that more than one person has already died to keep. It's fun. It's Edwardian. It's lovely. I love them together. I love. Oh.
I need to read the first one. That is a gorgeous cover too.
And yeah, book two's out now. I should have brought that downstairs, but I didn't. It's out now. I need to read it soon. So I'm just trying to get through Nano. So
I know. Let me catch up and read the first one, and then so that I can get the second one and read it with you. That'll be fun.
yes. So read that
Okay.
and then get the next one. I think it's a restless something, the restless ruin, the ruin of restlessness, something with R's. It's R's. I can't remember.
Okay. Well, you all, I finished this book 2 weeks ago, and I'm still thinking about it. It's called Out of Esau by Michelle Webster Hine. Thank you, Counterpoint, for sending this to me. This book, oh man. So we are following a very abusive marriage that involves Randy and Susan. Randy. So they're married, they have a couple of kids, and Randy is the type of husband who is so insecure. He doesn't trust his wife and basically almost keeps her captive in the house. He doesn't want her going anywhere, doesn't really want her meeting new people, none of that stuff.
So he's
He
emotionally abusive. Great.
Oh, he's so emotionally abusive. When he goes to work, he calls her all throughout the day. And what she better not do is miss his phone call. Or else when he gets home, he is going to be like a monster she's never known before. He is the type of husband and father where everyone in the house is so relieved when he leaves, but at the same time, they're holding their breath and waiting for his return. His house, everyone is walking on
On,
ice.
oh.
Everyone. It's so uncomfortable. It's so uneasy. He's miserable. He's making his family miserable, and he doesn't see it. And what you find out is this was a couple when they met. They both had goals and dreams that they were actually actively working towards. And this is what it looks like when a man in particular does not fulfill
Mm-hmm.
those dreams and ends up working a job that's very menial, working a job that his father worked, the type of job that he said he would never have because he was going to do more. And you're watching what it looks like when a man had all these big aspirations and never fulfilled them and is so angry about it, but for some reason can't do anything about it. And he's taking it out on his wife and on his children. This book, it was just, I think, such a well written portrayal of what an abusive marriage looks like and what it looks like to have a failed dream and to be living a life you basically told yourself you would never be living. It was perfection. There's also a pastor in the church who has his own storyline and has his own connection to Susan, but this is a must read if you ask me. You should read this and we should talk about it. It was
Okay.
amazing. It was just amazing. And
Is
it's
she
very
also being successful and he hates it?
so here's the thing about Susan. No. So they were
No.
both in junior college when they met. She's no longer in college. She didn't finish. She's just a mom and a wife, but she made peace with being just a mom and a wife. She just really took pride in, building a nice home for her family and raising a family. So where she was able to kind of like just deal with the fact that she had a dream. It didn't happen, but that's okay because now I have this new dream. And this new dream is being, a good wife to my husband and being a really good mother to my children. And I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But for him, he's just completely unsettled. He's just completely unsettled, unsatisfied. And I think that he also has a fear that Susan will look at him like he isn't worth much and will leave him. This dude is insecure on every single level. It was just like I just was like, Randy, you are really gonna fuck around and find out if you keep acting like this. That's all I'm gonna say. It was so good.
I feel like
So
this
good.
book's gonna
Out of
make me very
Esau.
angry.
Oh, this book, listen, Out of Esau is going to make you so angry. Randy is going to take you to places you didn't think you can go in your mind while reading the book. Randy is going to take you there. You're
Mm.
going to be so sick of Randy and you're going to be rooting so hard for Susan. I mean, there are some really intense things in here. Like, Randy really is a trip. And he almost has like, it's almost like when he's in one of his rages, he doesn't care about other people who may be around because he's that enraged.
Do I
It's
need
almost
more
like,
reason to hate men? Come on.
whew, I'm just saying, like, this book really, like,
Or let
oh,
me rephrase that. Do I need more men to hate?
just one more go, just one more time. Yes,
one
yes,
more.
yes.
Just
You,
one
you need
more.
to, you need to
Okay.
hate Randy. You need to hate Randy. Uh,
Okay.
very good, very good. Out of Esau by Michelle Webster Hine. Pick it up. Thanks again, Counterpoint, for this book. It was just out of this world. I'm still thinking about it.
And
I'm still
the
replaying
second,
certain scenes.
the sequel to A Marvelous Light is A Restless Truth. I knew it
Go.
had R in it. I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. My poor brain. Anyway. All right,
All
we
right.
got to wrap this up so we can get to our next one. It's a big recording
Yay!
day and a very
Yeah.
short amount of time. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. And please remember to review this if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you can review the podcast. That would be fantastic.
Tell a friend. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here. Bye.
Bye.